Hi everybody. Let me turn you just a hair. We got a rainy day. Now sometimes, let me warn you, when you're painting, even if you're inside and it's raining outside, the humidity can change and it can mess up your paints. But if you're willing to take the chance, normally it should be okay if you're pretty dry inside the house. Now if you got a window open and it's raining outside, because some people love the air, that could also change how your paints are affected by the weather. This is, I don't know what number video on this little girl, because I haven't been as studious as I should be. But I'm hoping we can do more on her today. Now, there's a reason I've been warning y'all to be careful with your paint lids. I've got the wrong lids on the wrong paints. These are metallic lids, regular paints. So what's probably happened is there's a little bit of metallic paint in both of these. What I'm going to do is find the correct lids, and then I will mark them with a black X. This is going to tell me there's going to be metallic in the straight paint. These are your straight acrylic flat colors. That's the word I was looking for. So these will have to be marked because it will change the color of the paint just a little bit. Now, I usually do that in these types of trays. I can mix colors. That's why the tray looks horrendous. But I don't like to mix colors in the full bottles. But I have done that, so these will have to be marked accordingly. Another thing I've been warning you about in these videos is to mark the tops of your paint lids so you can look down and see. I did not do that with the flat colors, and I just had to reorganize the bin. So later today I'm going to have to sit down and go through all the flat colors and mark them. The reason why I haven't done it yet is that I want to work on this. But now when I look down on the flat bin, I cannot tell what color's what. And that's why I want you to mark those lids. You should be able to just look down on it and boom, then know, all right, this is the color I need. All right, enough lecturing. I have decided, okay, enough. This is going to be for the bird. This is an antique white. That's going to be his belly. This is going to be for his wings. And we'll do gold for the beak. These are is probably her dress. That's what I was thinking. And these will be maybe her wings. Or we might reverse it. Or I might change it completely. Don't know. I was thinking about going metallic on the wings. And the reason why I'm talking this through with you now is because, well, you're part of this, aren't you? Let's go with this for the dress, because I want to keep her mostly flat color painted, but I do want a little color to her. So we'll go with that for the dress, and then we're going to do, I wanted a green wing. I really like green. I think it's pretty. So I've got a metallic glittered green. We can go over the flat. Let me see if I have any more of this flat green. Yeah. What I meant, not what I said. Yeah, you get it. It's a mix-up day. Now see, I'm having to lift paint colors up because some of these aren't marked. I tell you what to do, but I don't always get it done myself. Here's going to be her wing color. Here's her dress color. And now, here's a little trick. See how there's gold wire on the top of her head? That little star's held on. Since we might, more than likely, we're going to accidentally paint that gold wire when we're trying to get her hair, I'm not going to do her hair a drastic different color, because then the wire is going to be a lot trickier to repaint gold, and it's detail work that if you're a beginner you don't need to worry about, because it's very difficult and time consuming. So we're just going to go with This is an antique gold. This is a metallic gold. I don't know if you can see the difference. There's just a hair bit difference. So we'll probably go with one of these two for her hair. Plus I have gold glitters that we can use. And keep your craft area as picked up of garbage as you can, because it can become fire hazard if you've got a glue gun around. You know, cluttered is okay, is one thing, but completely disastrously so cluttered that you've got stuff next to your glue gun that could catch fire, or you've got trash on your table that you're not using. When you're done with a project, pick up your trash. It's common sense, but I've been watching Hoarders. Give me a break. I want to do her wings first. There's a reason I'm doing this. Let me explain. Let me pick her up. When I turn her, you see how the inside is tucked right against her body? That's going to mean I'm going to get some of the either the dress color on the wings or the wing color on the dress, either way. So I'm going to do the wings first because they're the darker color. So if I get some on the dress, I can go over it with the lighter color, either get it up, wiped up, or if I can't get it wiped up, I can change the dress color so that I could cover up that. But I always go with the darker color first. Because if you look, I got the brown from the chair on her wings back there. It's another reason I'm not going for a real light color on her wings. And you're saying to me, Tanya, it's not like people are going to pick her up and examine her that close. Yes. Yes, they will. And not only that, if they didn't, just a second. Whoops. If they did not, you should still have enough pride in your work that you will feel good about letting go of selling something or giving away something that you have done hard work on. Do you see what I'm saying? It's also pride for the person doing that. Brush needs to soak. But it's pride in what you're doing. It's like my grandmother, stay-at-home mom all her life. And then when the kids grew up, she still stayed at home. Took care of her grandkids when we came along, helped her, took care of her husband, took care of her home. But it doesn't mean just because she was a stay-at-home that she didn't have pride. And pride's not always a bad thing. Just go very slow on you doing this. Don't grab some on your brush and just jerk it down. You want very small flicks. You don't need big movements here because you've got small areas. If you go big movements, you're going to miss spots. Anyway, back to what I was saying. And my mom always said, have pride in what you do no matter what it is. And she would use my grandmama as an example. My grandma, 13 grandkids. She raised 4 kids, 13 grandkids, and 7 great-grand by the time she died. And she had something to do with all of us, and especially us grandkids, because our parents weren't middle class rich. We were middle class poor. And they couldn't always afford a babysitter. And so she would take care of a whole passel of us grandkids, while everybody else was working. And she made sure we knew how to sew on a button. She made sure, boy or girl, we knew how to cook ourselves something to eat. No matter what it was, she'd find what you liked to eat the most and teach you how to cook it. She made sure every one of us, male or female, knew how to iron. wash clothes, fold, sweep, keep a house. Those of us that showed the love of gardening, she taught to garden. Because my grandparents also raised gardens, 2 great big ones. And now when you're getting in this back here, tilt your work and go down and push up. Don't flick out or you're going to decorate the back of your chair, which you still might anyway. So never put away all the colors until you're done with a project. Because if you do, you're going to be hunting for that color when you have to do finished painting. I know that from experience. So my grandma couldn't drive, functionally illiterate, but yet she had a factor in all of our lives because we knew how to take care of a home. We knew that just because my grandmother couldn't do some things, there was no way she was useless. She taught us independence. Grandpa made sure those kids that were learning to drive knew how to change the oil, change a tire. If they needed someone to teach them to drive, he was the one that helped do it. I really wish he would have helped teach my sister to drive. I got to play curb. That is no fun. Mom would say, stand there. Your sister needs to learn to parallel park. So she would learn to parallel park between myself and my mother. Or stand over there. Your sister needs to learn how to park next to an object. Well, guess who's the object? I had to jump out of the way a couple of times. But the garden. My grandparents wanted to help the kids who couldn't afford groceries. But there was a lot of kids in our family. And even though the adults worked, sometimes, like my mother, it wasn't always enough. So if you worked in the garden, you got produce from the garden. No freebies. You had to pull your own weight. And that kind of education at my grandparents' knees. And my mom, being a single mom for up until I was 8 or 9 when my stepfather proposed to my mom. We saw her struggle. I remember her struggling to make sure she could get to Shriners, and she hated driving in the city. But she'd make sure Grandpa helped her learn. He taught most of us to read a map. I was useless at that. I still am. I hate maps. But he could take you anywhere with the aid of a map. And Mom, I remember the only reason we got me into Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children is what it used to be called. I think they may have dropped the crippled children part. If you're wondering why my turntable's tipping, it's on a brick of wood. What was I saying? Oh, we went to the laundromat to do the laundry because we didn't have a washer. And the guy at the laundromat noticed how I was walking. And the owner of the laundromat happened to be a Shriner. Sometimes you're going to have to switch to a different brush, smaller brush. I need to get in a more detailed area. Don't put a gob on your brush. Yes, eventually I'll learn where the camera is located. He was a Shriner, and I was walking like a ballerina on point. So he knew something was wrong, and he helped Mom get me into Shriners Hospital. So not having a washer turned out to be a blessing. For us, it was a blessing. Especially for me. But pride in everything you do, going back to my original wandering topic, including your crafts. Yes, this is fun. But if you're going to sell this or give it away, these make great Christmas presents. One year I painted all summer, spring and summer, and into the fall. I worked on getting the statues, and everybody in my art group got something, a statue that I painted for Christmas that year. And I had pride in what I did. Not in a bad way, but in a way that made me feel like, hey, I did a good job. I'm proud of this. If they pick it up and examine it, I'm not going to go, oh, I forgot that. I've done that. Been there. I can't see real well. I usually have my mom or someone check make sure I didn't leave big spots. Because I want it to look good. Even if no one else ever sees it, I want it to look good. For me. All right, there's our wings. Now, you saw me switch brushes. The reason I did that is because it's very close in there. And sometimes there's areas of your statue that you're not going to be even able to get, to be honest, because of the way the statue's made. And her wings actually attach at the base to this chair. So I was trying to get in the crevice so I didn't leave any white spots. Oops, I think I just wiped that on my leggings. Now, which one of these two brushes is going to be the better brush to get down in the back to do her wings? You tell me. If we use this brush, yes, it's flat, so yes, that may be easier. But, and if I smear it, I'm doing this as a teaching technique, so I wanted you to see. If you get down in there, you're still touching the back of the thing, okay? So the flat brush is out. This brush, while you can go further down in, you're still touching the back. And you don't want to smear your paint. And I actually did that without smearing paint. I don't know if you could see very much of what I was trying to show you, but you're going to have a different selection of brushes. Well, Tanya, I can't afford a lot of brushes. Listen, you go to the Dollar Tree, they have a pack of 5 brushes for $1. Go to Dollar General, you can find more than that. Sometimes they have packs of 12 brushes for $1 or a little more, $1.50. You don't need to spend a lot on your brushes. You have a friend who's throwing out some brushes, grab them. You grab the frayed brush. You grab a pair of scissors. You trim the fray off. Then you got a brush you can use. If this cap comes off of this part of the brush, you take a dab of super glue, little dab will do ya, and you glue it back on. You got your brush. You can do a little effort and still do your brushes without spending a lot of money. A hobby doesn't have to be expensive. Give me a break. I love to shop with the rest of them, but I'm not going to spend a lot if I don't have the choice. Now back to the topic. I wander, what can I say? Flat brush or this narrow brush, okay? This brush or this brush. And you saw the area we were trying to get in. Come here, darling. Again, if I use this brush, I can now get in there and get down in there without smearing the paint on the back of the chair. That's why you can't use all the same brush. That's why you're mixing and matching. Sorry, my brain's trying to have a seizure. That's why you're mixing and matching. Okay? Now, the wings need to dry a little bit, but I am going to add some glitter. I like to add a little bit of pop. So sometimes I'll do an all pale flat, I call that pale, but an all flat color doll, ceramic, whatever. And then I'll do one or two things in metallic with a little bit of glitter. You don't have to go haywire on the glitter, because not everybody likes it. Sometimes you just want to very lightly brush over the wings so that it's on top and not in the crevices. And then when they move it, it'll just catch the light a little bit. You don't have to go heavy, and you don't have to use the glitter at all. Say you like the metallics but hate the glitters. Just a little bit of metallic somewhere will make something pop, even if it's just a little bit of red metallic on the lips. All right, now for her dress. We could use this brush, okay? But A, there's still green paint on it. I didn't clean it real good. B, we'd be here forever. Keep that into context. Not only do you want to use the appropriate brush. I'm sorry, my brain's a little foggy because I'm trying to have a seizure. Do you not want to not be here forever? And you don't want to smear your paint. You don't want to be here for 3 hours painting the same place. I hope that comes across. So yes, we could use this brush, but see how it's more narrow and pointed? Again, we're going to be here for a while. We're going to keep this brush out. We might clean it a little more. So let's put it back in the water. But we're going to use this brush so we can get a little bit more surface area. Now this type of brush comes in different sizes. But if we used this brush, yes, we could create more surface area. But see how close that gets to the wings? Again, we don't want to mess up what we've already done. So this brush would not be the appropriate brush for this job. I can put it back because I didn't smear. So this is the brush we need. Make sure your brush is clean. If you need to, add a little dish liquid to your water when you're getting ready your water to clean your brushes, because you don't need paint thinner. We're not using oil. You can add a little bit of Dawn, just a little drop, and it will help clean your brushes, okay? Because if you leave paint in these bristles, they're going to be stiff when you go to use them, which is what happened to this one, because I didn't get it completely clean, and completely clean means getting right here at the base too. So you can ruin your brushes that way. We're trying to save money, not spend it. Now, here's this little blue-green, and I'm going to show you. It does not have a dot on top. Shake it up before you use it, because they do tend to separate. You can put a little bead or ball bearing in there to help shake it up too if you want, or a nut, washer, whatever, just something to move around. So I'm going to take a little bit of paint off the side. See? I just scooped a little bit off the rim there, just below the rim. I'm going to take the lid, and right in the center, I just placed a little bit of that color. Put that aside to dry. Now, when I look down, I know what color that is. And if you have someone painting with you who cannot read the label, they can learn the colors on top of the lids. For kids or adults who can't read, that works. There's no shame in an adult who can't read. All right, what I want you to do in a thing like this, see how close in we got to get? Let's get just a little bit of paint on the brush. We don't want a whole lot. In fact, you could scrape some of this off. We want barely anything on the brush, just like that. And you only need the one side. Leave one side clean in case you got to fix some mess up. We're going to get right in here in the wing, against the wing and the body, push down, pull out. Now, there's a little bit of green in her dress because I got green off her wing. Rinse your brush because now it's on your brush. Rinse your brush. All right, go back in on the lid, on just under the lip of the lid. Again, we're getting just a little bit of paint here. Now, don't touch the wing. Hold on. Sorry about that. I wanted you to be able to see, but this block of wood is not going to work. I'm going to have to ask Scott for another block of wood. Again, we don't have a lot of on the brush. Go back in there, except don't go so far back in this time. That was a mistake. So pull it forward, push down, pull forward, and just go over where the mistake was. The color may change a little bit because there's that deep green in there. Let it dry. Clean your brush. I'm not wiping it on my pants. I do have a brush rag. If you've got old sheets, old towels, old dish towels, something with a hole in it, something stained up, a shirt, whatever, that can be cut up for rags for your painting, so that you can do that. If you got a painting table, get a tablecloth to save your table. I've told you that before. Again, don't load a lot on your brush, so just, you can keep scraping the edge, that's fine. This is a little bit more. Now her dress has wrinkles in it. You see that? And we went over the top. We're not getting in those wrinkles yet. We need to get the edges painted first. Just like when you were a kid and you're coloring in your coloring book. Let's paint out the edges first. And then we'll fill in the center. Just like that. I want to get the edges that are touching. All right, that's going to be annoying. I got to get the edges that are touching a wing or the chair. Let's get those edges first, okay? And then we can see if we've mixed colors. We can fix that once it dries just a little. It doesn't have to dry completely, but it needs to dry a little bit. So just go over where there's touching and get a little paint there so we can keep going. And work on the edges first. Wipe your brush. Now, I accidentally got on both sides of my brush. That's okay because I'm coming out from the wing. When you're in a tight space, only put paint on one side of your brush so that the part of your brush that's against the other painted surface, like this wing, has no paint on it. It'll be easier to stop screw-ups if you do that way. But we're not in that space now, so we can load a little more paint on the brush. If you're getting a tight space like around her collar, all right, use the edge of the brush, just like this. You don't need to lay the whole brush down, especially if you don't have a smaller brush. Use the corner of the brush. And sometimes you're going to lay the brush flat and then push the bottom here against whatever you're working. Let me show you. Lay your brush flat against that edge and then push backward. See? That way we get paint where we need it, but we're not painting her arm. Well, you're not. I am. And it's a little harder sometimes when you have to hold it. We can fix the arm thing. Now, like I said, don't do what I've done. And I've put away the color for her arm. So I'm going to have to find that color in a little bit and rematch it. But I think I know which color I used. So that won't be too hard to fix. All right. Now we can add a little bit more paint. See, you're only adding a little more paint as you go. It's easier to add more paint to your brush than to take away more paint from the ceramic. Kind of like when you're making a baby's bottle. It's easier to add more formula instead of subtracting the formula from the water when it's already mixed in. Go over the top of those wrinkles. Don't worry about getting in them yet. Let's go over the top and get all of that going in one direction. Okay? Sometimes to get something that has a crevice or a wrinkle, You put your brush on the ceramic and go an opposite direction. Let me demonstrate. See the holes in the seam? To get those holes, I'm putting the brush, the edge of the brush, this part here, against the ceramic over the holes, and I'm flicking upward. That's the other direction than what I was doing before. Okay, that's going to get those holes. Now to get those wrinkles, I want you to put the brush just below the wrinkle and then push up. Push in on your brush and pull up. Push in, pull up, one smooth stroke ought to do it. And then you just reverse it if you got to go the other direction. Or you go the tip route like I showed you before. Okay? Now we're going to finish your sleeve. Flick up because there's sleeve right there. See that little bitty area? So we're going to flick up. Like I said, don't fret if you get paint where you don't need paint. Now I need a little more paint, but I've got a really small area right here. Let me show you what I'm working on. Point. I hate trying to figure out where the camera is. That area right there is what we're working on. Really tiny. So pick up your ceramic, get it where you can see real good. Put the edge in the crevice and push out. And it's painted. That simple. One little move, got it painted. Okay? Now we can just do the other side. Just make sure before you switch sides that you've got all your little crevices. If you got paint where you didn't want it, we can fix that in cleanup. See the ridge right here where her gown is laying on her knees, her legs? We got to paint that so it looks like her gown, because that's not her skin. So edge little bitty part of the brush, just the barest edge of the brush, and move down. Barest edge of the brush. Now, she's got dress in her lap. You can barely see it between her knees. But just because you can barely see it doesn't mean you shouldn't paint it. All right? Again, we're having pride in our work. We're doing the best we can. So that when we sell it, if someone doesn't buy it, don't take it personally. Everybody has different tastes. But when that one customer sees all the beautiful work you did, or that one person you're doing it for Christmas, and they see all the detail you put in and all the work you put in, they're going to go, wow, this is beautiful. And that makes you feel good about yourself. This is your talent. Use it. God wouldn't give you a talent if he didn't think you should use it. In her lap, this brush, again, is going to be too big. But I want to use it again, so I'm setting it down on my turntable and sticking my finger in paint. Lovely. Wipe it on the towel and keep going. You can wash your hands later. This is also why I didn't put away this little bitty brush we used earlier. We're going to get a little bit of paint. I like using the sides of the bottle just inside the thing. But sometimes you use it all up, so you have to dip. And then just wipe your paintbrush on the rim so that we have some paint on the brush. Now we're just going to put our brush in and pull out. You don't need to do this bit to get it. Put your brush in, push down, pull out. Just like that. Now you may need to get more paint because we didn't put a lot of paint on there. So get yourself a little more paint. Or if you're like me, get paint and then have to clean your brush a little bit. That's okay. Again, put it in there, push down a little bit and pull out. When you're doing the edge, little bitty strokes. Little bitty brushes with the brush. Just pull out. Touch and pull out. You don't even have to push down. Touch, pull out. Touch, flick. Touch, flick. Just like we did when we did our toes. Now, go slower in these small areas. Go slower. That way you can take your time and do a proper job, and it's not going to look like a muddy mess. It's okay to go slower. We've got the dress. See how it's painted there? But see how right there it's still on her, resting on her lap, but you can see the brown edge of the dress? Let's paint that. What we're going to do is we're going to put the brush right on the edge of that and flick up. But make sure there's barely any paint on your brush or you're going to splatter paint on her arms. So very loaded brush with a very short flick, not a long one. Just see, you barely move your hand. Instead of running it around the edge like some people do, like this, if you use the flick technique, you're going to have less paint where you don't want paint. But like I said, make sure your brush, I need a frog, Venus flytrap, frog would be more entertaining. Sorry, flies distracting. But now that's all done in her lap. And when you set her down, because you've got better vision than I do, now turn. Let me move her over a little. Now you can see the color peeking out from between her arms where her gown is on her lap. Okay? Now we're going to turn the work. And you can see I've already messed up the birdie. He's got paint on his head. More paint now, because I thought I had my brush turned around. That's okay. Paint happens. Someone put that on a shirt and send it to me. All right. I'm going to use our bigger brush, so let's switch back. Sometimes when there's no paint on the inside of the lip of the bottle, or very little, tip your bottle, because if there's less paint in the bottom here, it's going to be hard. So don't do this with a full bottle or it's all going to spill out on your turntable. But if there's less paint, I think there's about that much paint in this bottle. So I'm going to tip it just like this. 45 degrees maybe. That will bring the paint closer to the top of the bottle and I can get some on my brush. And now I'm going to clean off my brush on the lip. That will allow the paint to run down into the bottle, and there's going to be extra on the inside lip, so I can use that again. Okay? Okay. Brace. Now, if you're having no one to help you hold, because sometimes when someone's helping you hold a ceramic, their hands are going to get in your way, depending on how big your ceramic is. So sometimes if you need to tilt a piece and you're holding it by yourself, first, make sure your turntable is not on a block of wood. Second, tip it up on the side. You see what I'm doing here? Just like that. Brace it with, don't hold it real tight with one hand. Just cup your hand like this and let it rest in your hand. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on it because you've got drying paint. And if you pinch grip that, you're going to smear that paint and have to redo everything you just did. So just make your hands like this and let it rest in your hand tipped up. You don't need to hold it, because if you pinch grip, you're going to get wet paint on your hands, your clothes, and you're going to have to repaint what you just did. So just let it rest there. We're going to go up by the collar, put the tip in our brush, and drag it just a little bit. Now, see, I don't do that drag technique very often because I find it wastes paint because I get paint where I don't need it. So what I'm doing, I'm touching and pulling. Touching with this part, this flat part right there, the front of the brush. And I'm just going around the edges Again, let's get the edges in. And if you can't get all the way back there without making a mess, don't do it. We'll pick up the smaller brush and clean that up. So just get what you can with the big brush. Don't forget to reload your brush because you're not using a ton of paint. Just because you're painting doesn't mean you have to load the brush. And slow, especially if you've never done this type of thing before. If you're new to painting ceramics, don't be afraid to go slow. Don't be afraid to not have the piece done in 1 day or 2 days or 2 weeks or months. I've had pieces that were so challenging, it took me months to paint it. I did a Bearstein about that tall, big round one. It took me 8 months to paint it because I had to be so slow and so careful because it had so much detail on it. But I didn't rush myself, so it looked good when I was done. Now, we're just gonna get the edge again. So let's go push down and pull in one long stroke to get some of the, now you're gonna miss some that way, that's fine. Because like I said, remember there's eyelets on her dress. An eyelet is a little hole-like thing in lace. So we didn't have much paint there. And I don't like that drag technique, but you can use it if you want. But now, just touch and flick up. Touch and flick up. And if you've got a space where you can have paint on both sides of your brush, you can flip your brush over because you got paint on there. But again, don't load your paint down. Most people that I know would rather go back to the bottle to get more paint than have a ton of, excuse me a minute. Archer, no speak. It's the neighbors. Would rather have to go back again and again to the paint bottle than to have a ton of paint on the work. Because if you glob the paint and it dries, that glob is going to dry in one big knot. Lump. Lump is a good word. And then you've got a lump on your ceramic. You have to pick it off and it will take all the other paint on with it. Then you got this great big bald spot. And you got to go back and smooth it with sandpaper and then repaint it. Big hassle. But see, I couldn't get all the small area because that dastardly bird's in my way. So I'm going to finish out her, almost said her wing. Listen to me. I'm going to finish her sleeve. Now I've got wrinkles. So I'm going to go with the wrinkle and just flick, flick, flick in the direction of the wrinkle and just flick, flick, flick. And sometimes when paint smears, it can be a happy accident. Kind of like Bob Ross and those happy little trees. Sometimes you like a smear better than what you were going to do originally. Don't be afraid of that. Be creative. Use your imagination. If you have to paint over something because it didn't turn out like you thought it would, oh well. Right? There is no complete wrong in this. This is fun. This is relaxing. This is anything you want it to be. You all know I love music. You know what just popped into my head? Pure Imagination from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Now see, her foot, that's gonna have to be fixed. See, her leg, we'll have to fix that too. And sometimes you can wind up more colorful than your ceramic. Now, where the gown again rests on her leg. Got to see where I'm pointing. Right there is what we're headed for. I've got to put a little bit of paint on my brush. And I had to dip it in because there wasn't really a lot to pull from on the edges. So I dipped it in, and now I'm just pushing it off the rim to clean a little bit of the paint off the brush. That's how you do it. Just little swipe on the rim, just like that. Take your time here. Touch it and flick. Touch it, and sometimes you don't have room to flick. That's okay. Just if you have no room to flick, touch it and push down just a little bit. But don't make a big stroke, because that could create a mess. And I've already got a lot for us to fix and finish painting. But that's okay. We're not going to do finished painting today. Simply because I need to pull out the colors. I've had some things get put away since then. Because I don't do it all in one video. Why, I don't know. But yeah, now with this smaller brush, look at where your piece attaches to different parts of the ceramic. With your really small brush, just go in and touch those up a little bit. Okay? Okay. That's first coat. That's going to need more than one coat. I'm going to use the exact same techniques to put another coat on it, but let this one dry completely first, at least overnight, so you make sure it's dry. You don't want to risk mixing paints. The wings will need another coat unless you like the way it looks with just one coat. That's totally fine. This is yours. But we're going to, off camera, I will do another coat with the wings and another coat on the dress. I want them to dry fully first. So what we do now, let's clean our brushes and pick up our paint. Now, the dab we put on the lid is already dry. And this is what it turns out like. So now, when I put the lid on the paint, this is the color. And now I can look down on it and go, wow, there it is. There's the color I wanted. And don't hoard. I mean, if there's only this much paint left in the bottle, and you need the bottle, or say you don't even need the bottle, say you need that color. Take a note card, like a recipe card, or your kids' note cards, or a piece of notebook paper, and paint it. A note card works better than paper because it's thicker and it won't bleed through as bad. So notebook or thick piece of cardboard or something, paint it. So you've got, and let it dry, and there you've got your paint sample for the color that you need to take in the store and get. Because sometimes if you go in with a bottle like this, even if you show it to the greeter, service desk, whatever, and they sell that, they may nail you for, or try to nail you for stealing if. So I like to just make a sample card of the colors I need and take that in with me. And if I can see the name on the bottle, or some bottles don't have a name, they have a number, a thing to identify that color, I will write that above or below the sample. It just saves hassle. Now, this is another metallic. It's from the brand of Folk Art. It's their enamels collection. Walmart. I think it's like $1.97 for 2 ounces. And this is in the color, yeah it is, metallic gold. These already come with the marked lids. That's what gave me the idea. If you're painting a small area, paint out of the lid first. Get the paint out of the lid first. That's a good idea to start with, period. So that's what we're going to do. So place your lid down near you where you're going to paint. Tell Tanya to quit talking so that she cleans her brush. Again, use the proper brush if you can for your work. And this is another reason you wear a painting smock. Sometimes paint splatters and you don't want your good clothes. I wash this a lot and it's, you know, stained up in paint, but it's perfect for this. All right, we got paint in the lid. Not a lot, but some. So we're going to use that first. So get some on the very tip of our brush. Right now we're just loaded the tip, just the edge of the, a little more than I wanted, but for this purpose it'll work. We need to get under this wire. This is another reason I decided on gold for her hair, because if we accidentally paint the wire, it's not going to be a problem. If I was using black, that would be a problem. Now, see how her hair is ridged? First, I'm just going to go along the tops of those ridges. I'm not even going to push. I'm just going to run. It's like running a pastry brush over pastry. Just push, put the brush there and drag it over. Let the weight of the brush do the painting for you. Now, you're not going to get a lot of strokes out of what you put on your brush. That's on purpose because we got that wire there. Plus, this is not a big area. So we don't need to worry about the crevices right now. Let's do this. And if you want the hair to look like it has highlights, do this all over the head. Let it dry. Get a detail brush or a toothpick. Toothpick actually works better than a detail brush because it's rigid. When you're doing this type of technique, you don't want bristles to move around. Toothbrush works. Say you want her to be a strawberry blonde. You do this technique for the ridges, and then you go in with an antique copper, would be pretty, on the toothpick, and you just dab it on the toothpick. You're barely putting any brush paint on the toothpick, and you go in the ridges with that second color. And once that second color, and you do all the ridges that way. And then once the second color dries, you pick this up again and do this technique again with an almost dry brush. The reason why is if you got any of the copper color on these ridges, you're covering that up. But the red color will show through the ridges. In fact, that's probably what we'll do. That's what we'll do so I can show you. That's how we're going to do the hair. So right now, for this part, we're just going along the top of the ridges. Load your brush. Okay. See if I can get, I'm looking in the camera for what I'm doing, folks. But see, we're just letting the brush weight do the painting for you, because we're not getting in the middle. So let's just go over, and then we'll do an antique copper inside the ridges. And it won't be a great color. It's not going to be like a wow, blow me down. It's going to be a little bit of highlight. Just a little bit of a highlight inside the ridges. So we just want the tops of those ridges. That's why it's good to also grab paint out of the lid. You can't overload your brush, because if you overload your brush with this technique, you might as well paint ridges in all gold. When you're going under that wire, keep your brush as flat to the head as you can without pushing down. Now, you might get in the ridges under the wire, but that's okay. We don't want to mess with that wire, especially if you're not using a gold. We're going to try not to touch that wire hardly at all. If we need to go back and redo the wire, that's fine. Sometimes the wire is looped, and you've got to get inside the loop. Rest your ceramic on one corner so that it's resting back in your hand. You can put a little pressure to actually hold it this time, because you don't want it to move. But if you rest it on the one corner, you can get it at more than a 45-degree angle. And then just go around that wire really slow, really gentle. And we don't have a lot of paint on the brush at this point. There are times when you want to heavily load your brush, but this is not one of them. And I'm sure if you keep watching me paint ceramics with you, we'll come across some of those times. Go around the ear. We're just painting on the ridges. Now I need to get in this circle. See, I'm just putting the brushes. I'm not putting the whole brush in. Just put the tip in just a little bit. I keep forgetting you. need to see. My apologies. And now see, I'm putting that edge of that brush under the wire, but don't put a lot of pressure on it. You don't need to press. You're letting the weight of the brush just rest in your hand. Just pinch it enough to hold on to the brush, and then just let the weight of the brush, you can go whatever direction you want right now. That we don't have a problem with. We can go crisscross, side to side. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. Now, if you like the undercolor of the ceramic, and you want that to show through instead of doing a highlight technique, that works too. That works too. So, now for the back, flip him up like this. Put the bottom of the ceramic, you can put it against your chest. What this does is it's going to give you a steady surface without, you don't need it shaking. And if you hold something out like this, your wrist gets tired and it's going to shake. Steady it against you so that there's not much pressure on your wrist. Sometimes if you're painting a tall ceramic, get a glass or a canned good and set your wrist on that so that you don't wear out your arm and your hands begin to shake. When your hands begin to shake, the paintbrush is going to shake. And then you're going to get paint where you don't want it. So this is another reason you would be wearing a smock. Now, I'm out of lid paint. What you can do is pour a little more paint in the lid if you want, or you can just go around the edge, or you can just dip in and wipe off like I showed you. If you're wiping off, you're just doing it just like that. Wiped off what I needed. Now, I'm not flicking, I'm just resting it and moving it and letting the weight of the brush. If something is not clear and you have a question, please ask in the comments, because if you have a question, someone else may be afraid to ask that same question. Let's get all the questions answered. So leave me a comment if you have a question, or if you just have a comment. Did you learn something new? Is there something you would like to know that I haven't touched on? I have taught myself this, but if there's something I don't know, I can go to my art group and see if they help me. So if you have any knowledge, questions, something you don't know and you really need to know. Now see, I was talking instead of paying attention and I painted the wire. But since it's a gold wire, it's going to be okay. Ta-da! Now I got a little green of her dress, blue, green, teal, whatever. I call this color teal. I don't care what you call, I don't know rather what you call it. I do care, I don't know. Some people call it blue, green, some people call it blue, I call it teal. And people look at me like, what color's teal? No kidding, I have had several people not know what color teal was. Really weird. But if you have any questions or comments, I'm doing something and you know a better way to do it, tell me in the comments. Teach me too. So any good teacher is one that admits they don't know everything and they're willing to learn from their students. That's my personal theory. So don't be afraid if you accidentally do the wire because you can change the color of that wire as well. Now I'll show you what we wound up with. Here's what we wound up with. See how the gold is just on the tops of those ridges? We're going to fill all those ridges in and it won't take very long. But we need this to dry first. I don't like messing with wet paint when I'm doing two colors because then you got mixing colors. That's not cool. Now, like I said, if you can, okay, keep the paint colors you're using separate and out. If you don't have that ability and you need to put things away, here's another thing you can do. Get a little Tupperware, or these are at the Dollar Tree and they've got lids. And if you lay the paint, if you make sure your paint is shut and you lay it down, you can put whatever your colors your current project is in something like this. Grab the lid, put the lid on, put the thing up, and you can put it away. Now another thing, and I've got one over there, they have things called a medicine chest, medicine safe, and it is for people to lock up pills. I've got one. You could place your paint bottles, if they need to be away from toddlers, in that medicine safe. Let me go get it and show you what I'm talking about. Give me a minute. Entertain them, dear. Good thing is I know where it's at. I'm coming. Give me a minute. Okay, I'm back. Well, I'm almost back. And if you only have a place with carpet for your painting table, go get a drop cloth or a plastic tablecloth to put under your painting table on the floor. And then put your painting table over it, and make sure your tablecloth or your drop cloth is big enough that it covers the area where you sit, so your chair would be on top of it as well. That way if you spill paint, it's on the drop cloth. This is a medicine safe. You should be able to get them just about anywhere. Mine came off the free table. It's got a screw in it to mount it on the wall or whatever. But see, it's got enough room. If it'll stay open, little bugger. You can put your paints in there and it'll hold several. Then you shut it, it comes with keys, you lock it up, your paints are safe from little ones, cats, whatever. If you're fostering children and you don't know if you can, you don't know the kids real well and you don't want them messing with your paints, that is an option. And they're not that expensive. Because I know some people have little ones and they don't exactly always have room, or if you have medications that you don't want everywhere, and I put some medications in there when I have company that has children. My medicines go out of my medicine cabinet and into there, so that if the kids have to use the bathroom and they decide to monkey into my medicine chest or whatever, they won't have. I don't have kids, but I have paranoia. No, I don't have paranoia, actually. I've helped raise kids, and sometimes you don't know what they're into. Even the older kids. My cousin's boy, he was a teenager, and he come over to Mom and I's house, and my mom caught him snooping in the medicine cabinet for pills. Now, our medicine cabinet at my mom's house is in the kitchen. But the reason being, that's just not only where we had place to store it, but that's where my grandparents always kept it, and we just kept the tradition up. There's one cabinet in the kitchen that has vitamins and stuff like that, and your sink is right there. So, they never forgot to take their pills, and we just kept up with that tradition at my grandparents'. So she caught him in the medicine, And so after that, if he come around, she always put our pills in her little safe that you can get them at Walmart. They can be as small as that or smaller to great big ones. And she's got one that's about a couple of feet. She's got a really big one. But she would put the pills in the safe just so that, even the vitamins, just so that he wouldn't get into them. I'm not saying your children will do that. Okay, I'm just saying that's what happened with our family. And this particular child did have a problem with drugs. He almost lost his leg because of heroin. And so we just wanted to be safe with medicines. And I like that because I can lock my medicines up, or if I feel I need to lock some of my paints away, then I will. And like I said, that's called a medicine safe. Comes with 2 keys. You can have spares made. Or you can get a regular safe at Walmart for just a little bit. I think the biggest ones, like my mom's got, are about $50. But mom's got a really big one. It was my grandpa's. But something like that costs you $10 to $20, depending on the brand and whatever. So if you want to do that, you can. There's some options out there to be safe and still have your hobby. Because I know I've looked into fostering, and if I do foster a child, my paints will have to find a way to be put away. Unless the kids are supervised with the paints, which is logical. It's fine, I can do that. But there are ways to do it and still have your craft. Okay? There's ways to be safe. Just because you got little ones doesn't mean you can't do your craft. It just means you got to be a little crafty. I had little ones and we didn't think about this. And we had little ones in and out of the house, and we had a separate bedroom that we had designated our craft room. And the reason why I say use a drop cloth is we didn't, and we had carpet and it was a rental. Someone spilled gray paint on the carpet. The only good thing, it was a gray carpet. But sometimes, even if it's not a rental, spills happen. Or you don't even see it and your paintbrush drips. So that's why I say if you got carpet, or even if you got linoleum but it's hard to clean, or tile or whatever, just get a drop cloth or a shower curtain or a tablecloth and put it under your painting table. Put your painting table and your chair on top of it, and just make sure the area where you sit is covered as well with plastic. You can even tape it down with painter's tape. That won't pull the fibers of the carpet up. Hardly at all. Yeah, I'm not going to say it won't completely, but it would be safer than regular tape. So there's some tips and hints. I hope you have fun painting. We're going to let this dry 24 hours, and then I'm going to do the second coat. Then it's going to dry another 24, and Lord knows how long it'll be before we get another video, but we will. The next video, I'm going to have all our paints back out, and we're going to finish her up. So the next video we're going to finish the hair, and we're going to do the finished cleanup painting that I promised I showed you, because we still have her lips to do and stuff, I think. Yeah, we still got her lips to do. With the cleanup painting next time, we're going to finish her hair, and I will have a second coat on the wings and the dress. And depending on how gold you want this highlight, you can do a second coat there as well. That's fine. And we're only going to do one coat on the red that will be in the crevices. We don't want that to scream out. We just want it to be a little shimmer of what's there. I will also off camera add green glitter. I have glitter that matches the metallic paints, and you can buy these. I have a couple different colors of green here. Oh, no wonder I wasn't in the glitter side of the paints. Ain't that kicker? I even have black glitter. Can you believe it? I've got one in my hand in case you're curious. Give me a second. Here's the metallic green glitter that matches, and this is the other metallic green. They're two different colors. I think I have a third color in here somewhere that is a green as well. I will pull all those out at a later date and show you them so we can decide which one to use. See, this is from the Dollar Tree. This is a metallic glitter, and this was $1 for 3 fluid ounces, or 88.7 milliliters. This is your cheaper bride because this one, this little glitter, is 2 fluid ounces or 59 milliliters. This is 3 fluid ounces or 88 milliliters. This was $2. This was $1. Now this one, they're not always going to have the color you want. I've only got 2 colors in this one, red and green, because that's all I had. But if you look around, you can sometimes find a deal like that and get a color you want. Now, they do have glitter paints if you're wanting to use glitters. I'll find it later, that are bigger. The glitters that I use, that's a good one. This one's Dollar Tree, or no, Dollar General. It is 1.96 fluid ounces for $1. See how tiny those glitters are? That's what I prefer. Now, they do have glitters that are bigger chunks. You could even use glitter nail polish. Nail polish works really good on ceramics. In fact, when we do her lips, we are going to use a nail polish. I have the pink, but I want to show you that the nail polish can work too. So we'll finish her up next time, and we'll finish the bird next time. And then we'll start something else. I hope you had fun. Have any comments? Leave them down below. Let me know your tips and tricks. My brain doesn't always function right when I had a seizure while we were talking. I have what they call partial seizures. Sometimes when my brain's tripping like that, it's because it's a partial seizure. Cerebral palsy is kind of like a computer, and the motherboard doesn't work right. And sometimes that's why you hear me repeating things or I get confused and lose track of what I'm saying. It's because I'm seizing. I don't always have the jerking type of seizures. I can sit there and watch you and hear you and not be able to react, not be able to move or respond. I'm frozen. And then it goes away and I can move again. Or like I did a couple of times while I was on camera with you, I had the seizures where my train of thought left the station and where I was repeating words or I couldn't get the words out in the proper sentence. And when those types of seizures hit, for the next usually 24 hours, I'm a little bit more scattered and I'm a little bit more, it's more difficult for me to put together words in a sentence. And the only reason I'm explaining this is it happened on camera. I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to delete. This is me. This is how I would be if you were sitting right next to me. And I would explain it then too. I'm not going to make excuses. It's how I am. But it doesn't mean you can't understand. Because if we all loved each other a little more, I think things would be a lot better in this world. God bless and have a good day. I gotta find the off switch. I think I gotta move my turntable. Ah, there it is. Bye, everybody.